There are two different types of function loops in VS Code v5 Pro. The first type is an if loop. An if loop is created by typing if, then in parentheses a condition, and then an open and closed curly bracket. What this if loop does is it's going to check if this condition is true. And if this condition is true, then it'll run whatever code is between the curly brackets. The if loop will only check the condition once, and it will only run the code once. The second type of loop is a while loop. It's constructed the same way as an if loop, typing while, and then in parentheses the condition, and then two curly brackets. The while loop also only checks the condition once, but once the condition is true, it will keep running the code within the curly brackets infinitely until the condition is no longer true. If loops are normally the function loop of choice for coding a user control void, whereas while loops are more useful and autonomous. Today we're going to code a few buttons in our user control void using these if loops. The first button I want to code is the up button to raise the arm on my robot. I'm going to say if, and then to add a condition of a button and whether or not it's being pressed, you first specify the controller. I'm using my controller 1, and then the up button, which they call button up, and then pressing. So it's saying if the controller 1 up button is pressing, then do this. And I want it to raise the arm lift. But I don't only want the arm to go up, I want it to go down too. So I'm going to add another if loop. But this if loop is going to be special. It's going to be an else if loop. So I'm going to type else, and then if, and then my new condition. This is going to be the controller 1, button, down, pressing. Now what the else does is it tells the code to only check this condition if this first condition was false. So only if I'm not pressing the up button should it check if I'm pressing the down button. I'm going to create new curly brackets for this, and then I'm going to write that it should lower the arm if I am not pressing the up button, but I am pressing the down button. But I also need the arm to be able to stop. So I'm going to add another else loop, but this time I don't even need an if. The only condition is that our first two conditions aren't being met. So long as I'm not pressing the up button and I'm not pressing the down button, I want it to do this. I want it to stop the arm lift. And so now I've completely coded the up button and the down button to lift the arm and to lower the arm and then to stop the arm as well. And I can do this same thing and use it for any motor or any button. So I can also use the exact same loops to code my claw. Now I should note that for the way that I just coded the claw here, and by adding this else clause that tells the claw to stop, what actually happens is that the claw doesn't automatically spin all the way to 0 degrees when I press the Y button, but it's more like that's the maximum it can spin to. It can only spin to 0 degrees before it stops, but I can stop the claw anytime before 0 degrees by stopping to press the Y button. A lot of people get confused and think that because they told it to spin all the way to 0 degrees, it'll always spin to 0 degrees, but because we told it to stop, it will stop before that if we stop pressing the button. And this is not a bad thing necessarily, especially if we're trying to grab something with a claw, but it's pretty wide and we can't go all the way to 0 degrees. We don't want those motors to keep trying to squeeze and then to damage the motors. So by coding it this way, the 0 degrees and the 90 degrees become like a maximum and minimum, and we can still stop the claw at any time. Now, as far as while loops, we're going to use those in the autonomous section of our code here, but we'll talk about those later in one of the autonomous videos, because you really don't need to know all too much about them right now as you are coding your user control.